Okay, we are live. Episode 3.
3. We made it.
Man, I mean, it hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
We're nominated for Emmys. We're top of Spotify. I don't know what else to do, guys. We're here.
I think we just have to say thank you to our engineering team. The countless hours they spend every night editing, just capturing our guests that they've gotten. I mean, it's
the hours and hours of production and manpower, if you will.
Huge.
Manpower.
Huge.
Behind this production.
Yeah. Not manpower. Manpower.
Yeah, that's right. Short shorts and manpower.
That's right.
All right, episode 3. Let's kick it off. Here we go. Okay, now look, here's how we got to start this off, right? Before we get into any insurance talks or any of that stuff, we've got to talk about our intro, right? Our little intro that we put together. Again, the manpower, the hours, the cost, guys, involved in doing this intro we spared no expense. That's all I want to say, It was created on Canva, which is we do have the paid account of $15 a month. Big shout out to Canva. But we created it there. It really it was all done. Then we went in, took it into story blocks, added some sound. Now, the sound that we just heard in that intro, that's just something very basic. Just a little basic thing. What we were able to do this past week was nothing short of amazing, right? I have a buddy who's in the music business. He's a famous producer. And I reached out and I said to him, Rocco, man, we're trying to revolutionize the insurance business, right? We want to expose the dirty secrets. We want to give people good info. We need some hot fire to be the intro of this podcast. I called in the favor. It took a little bit. I had to do some greasing on my end, but man, we got delivered from a Grammy-nominated producer, right? Big shout out to my boy. Rocco did it again. Go look him up. Go follow him on all social platforms. Major producer in the game right now. He has blessed us with our intro to our podcast, which we have not yet released. It just came through, but over the course of the next couple of episodes, we'll be able to introduce ourselves to a Grammy-nominated producer's intro music.
Huge.
I mean, I want to hear the claps. You know what I mean? The little clap noise. I don't know how to do that on here. I know that there's a way to add clap sound. The audience, but I hear it in my head right now, man. I feel good about it.
We should probably fire our engineer that we just gave props to. Like,
he's out. He's out. He's gone. He's gone. So excited about that. That's always a fun thing. And we're here, episode 3. We're going to talk about, I think, some really good stuff today. Some stuff that's can actually help increase, an agent's return on lead cost and help them produce more. We'll kind of always, as our trend is going to be in this show, is to kind of expose some of the things that are out there that maybe new agents don't know or have knowledge of, and then to try to empower them, give them some good solutions, man. So what are we talking about today? What are we lay it on us?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we wanted to get started. Before the show, we kind of with our recap and talking about what's hot right now. What are agents hitting us up about? What content are we seeing? And so I think the big thing is we've gotten a lot of calls as well. Is text messages not going through, right? Trying to reach out. They've had things set up in different CRMs, whatever that may be. And what's the cause? Why are people flipping out? What do people need to do? You tell me, Oscar.
Man, yeah, it's been going on now. And if you don't know what we're talking about, or if you're not running your own, CRM or anything like that, which I think at this point, I've rarely talked to an agent that isn't running on some sort of CRM platform or dialer. But the A2P 10 registration that's been lingering for, actually, a lot of people don't know this, but it's been going on for a couple of years, right? And it's basically the carriers making an initiative to try and mitigate the amount of spam calls and text messages that we all get, right? I mean, I am bombarded every single day, my own personal cell phone, with President Biden. He calls me like 5 times a day, man. This guy, I mean, he's Sleepy Joe, man. He calls me 4 or 5 times a day, and he's offering me free health insurance.
What a guy.
Man, he calls thousands of folks every day, because I know I'm not the only one that's getting that phone call. And it's amazing to hear it sometimes. Literally, the people will be like, "Hey, we're calling from the Joe Biden administration."
Yeah.
No bullshit. Those are the intros to calls that I get. And so obviously that's super spammy stuff. Interestingly enough, people do fall for that, right? People like answer that call and go, "Oh, yeah, okay." And then they get transferred to somebody else. And that sucks, because then those people sometimes get scammed or just get put into really bad situations. And I think for that exists everything, right? It just depends on what we do in our daily lives. We're getting bombarded by spam one way or another, right? And so that's the effort, that they came together with the FTC and the federal government to try to mitigate all of that. And in doing so, they've been requiring that people who have small businesses or large businesses register their business. And if they don't have a business, meaning a corporation, an S corp, an LLC, some sort of structure, corporate structure, then they have to file as sole proprietors. And I think that's where probably a lot of the issue comes. And these registrations are required across. I don't think I've seen a CRM that doesn't have it, right? And from Ringy to Go High Level, Lead to Client, Agent CRM, all of them, any platform that you're on and you're using a DID, which is a 10-digit number, and you're using that for the purpose of running business, whether that's sending a promotional text, reminders, notifications, whatever it is. They've now, implemented one. What needs to be said on those text messages, opt-outs on every one of them, opt-ins, all those things. But now if you don't register, and here's where this thing's just been scattered and people are going nuts now. If you didn't register your business before September 1st, the hard stop for this was September 1st, right? They've been sending out emails and text messages and notifying just people, right? Companies that use DIDs. This is not just for the insurance business, right? This is for every single industry that's out there, right? And you're basically registering. When you fill out that registration, you're registering with the carriers, right? AT&T, Verizon, the 4 major carriers. I don't know. I can't think of what the other 2 are, but it's 4 of them. And so you're registering for those 4 carriers, and to be able to send text messaging and calling people and all that stuff. So if you're a sole proprietor, and if you've tried, and what I'm hearing right now is a lot of agents will come and say, "Hey, I've registered this thing 4 times. It's gotten denied every single time. What do I do?" Right? How can I fix this? What am I doing wrong? I talked to an agent yesterday that almost like oblivious, right? They've been seeing the text message. They've been getting the emails from the CRM saying, "Hey, you have to do this," and never did anything. And then called saying, "Hey, my texts aren't going through. What's going on? This doesn't work." And like in a complete panic attack. And it's like, well, man, we talked about this for the last like 3 months, right? Like, you're getting emails on this, so anyway, he went yesterday and filed that registration. I've also talked to agents that have done the registration 7, 8 times, and it's getting denied. the registration, again, if you're a sole proprietor, the purpose of it, right, just so everybody understands, is they're trying to link you to something, right? Like, who are you? Why are you sending people text messages, whatever those text messages are for? And if you're a business, then prove it to us, right? That's basically what this is about. And so if you don't have a corporation or an LLC, anybody that has those, the registrations go through almost instantly. But if you don't have those, then they're doing some more digging, right? They're going to see, like, well, who is this individual who is conducting business but isn't a registered business under some form of corporate structure, right? So that's like the reasoning behind all of this. And so if you're a sole proprietor, you have to make sure you're answering these questions like correctly. It's asking you, like, hey, what's the consent message that you're going to send when somebody goes to your website? Right. And so you have to give an example of the template. And it might be something like, hey, thank you for registering for our newsletter. Or, you agree that you're giving consent for company XYZ or individual, whatever your name is, to send you SMS, notifications, emails, calls to inform you about X service or whatever it is. So there's a real template that you need to follow on this. And I think a lot of people, what's happening is, you also, if you run any kind of landing page or website, which they want, you have to submit some sort of landing page or website to get the registration. That website or landing page, when you go to it, it needs to immediately a pop-up, right? Should come up that makes people check off a consent. Right? That's that initial consent that they're going into your website and they're going to give you, if they give you information, what are you doing with this information? And so that, I think a lot of people that don't have that on their websites or on their landing pages, that could be coming back denied. So there's a lot of reasons why. The biggest thing that I can, as far as advice, is if you're using a CRM, which again, most of these folks are, call the CRM. Book a call with them. Go to their support. There's a ton of articles right now on online. On YouTube, you can find by now a ton of videos of people that are literally like walking you step by step on doing these things. But I would first reach out to your own CRM and try to get some support and try to get them to help. But very important, right? Like, man, if you can't send text messages in 2023, you're out of the game, guys, right? Like, man, I don't, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but man, it's like, you got to be able to hit these folks, and you can, so yeah, so that's a little bit on that. What's your thought?
Yeah. I mean, and just so something that helps me, because this is, it's all really new. I wasn't tracking this and following this. Thankfully you were. And yeah, so I mean, A2P, right? Application to person. So it's, it's just like that. I mean, most every agent and agency is using some type of CRM, or if you're going to be dialing, you're going to be needing an application. And that's really what it is, right? Because yeah, personally, same way, I get a ton of freaking calls every day. And it would be great to at least know if they were verified or some sort. So I get the effort, but to kind of recap that, it's September 6th today. This went into effect 5 days ago, right? September 1st. Everybody's blocked. If you're not registered, all your messages are going to be blocked. And so you need to go and register, and you have options of being a sole proprietor or a business, right? And then each carrier is going to charge a little bit differently. Is that right or no? Based on for fees, or
I think there might be. That's a good question, man. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, like you said, the CRM is they're gonna know once
you'll have
once you get certified.
Yeah,
but
and if you Google it, you'll get all the info on it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, that's a mistake that I think a lot of agents have made, and I believe that, including myself, I mean, I wasn't tracking it because, like you were, I know you've mentioned it, over the year. However, I think a lot of agents have got set up with their CRM, right? Agent CRM, Go High Level, whatever it may be, and they've got a phone number, and they just assumed that was like going to be registered for them, or that was all set. But what's happened in the last week, everybody is calling, making calls, making posts like, what's going on? The CRM sucks. My messages aren't going through. And then come to find out, they're finding they didn't get their ADP registered.
It's super important, which I think, like, why is it important, right? Because, new agents that are just coming on, that are just trying to figure out, hey, how am I contacting leads? Can I call a lead? We touched a little bit, I think, in the last episode on making sure that whatever lead you're purchasing or generating, that it is compliant, right? That you're following TCPA compliance and that you're not getting hit. Because getting hit with, and it's not, by the way, I think it's like 98% of TCPA complaints don't end up in lawsuits. Mm-hmm. Right? The majority of them are just payoffs, right? Somebody's calling you, an attorney, and saying, hey, you violated TCPA compliance. You called me out of time, or you called me too many times, or whatever that compliance is. I'm going to report this. What do you want to do? And you basically end up getting strong-armed, right? And I think it's $5,000 per occurrence that you can ultimately get fined. And so, they'll squeeze a few $1,000s out of you, and if you did it a few times to that person, they're going to squeeze several $1,000s out of you. So make sure you're in compliance, and then make sure that your phones are registered. Now they have to be. If not, you're not going to be able to do any SMS. And it's super important because, like, when the leads come in, whether you're buying them or whether you're generating them, you got to hit those leads with as much firepower as you have, right? And that means you're going to call the lead yourself, dial it, whatever dialing method you're using to reach out. But you also need to text people for a few reasons, right? Number one is the contact rates are, I think, harder than ever, right? I think you see it, you continue seeing contact rates get lower and lower, and that's just because, and by the way, that's the effort that these carriers are trying to, like, mitigate, right? That people just don't pick up their phones anymore because the majority of calls coming in are spam, right? And so the contact rates just across the board, not just in insurance, but in most industries, it's at all-time lows. So you can't fix that, right? There is no metrics, there's no solution to you getting somebody to picking up the phone at a higher rate, right? Or contact rates going up higher. So you have to simply use the tools that are out there that have taken the place of contact rates, right? Which are things like SMS, right? If you text me, if you call me, there's a very unlikely chance that I'm picking up the phone, even if I do know you, right? Just because like if I'm super busy and I don't have time to talk. Sure. And if I don't know who you are, or it doesn't say anything on my caller ID, forget about it. I'm never picking up that call. And I think there's a lot of people out there like that. So the SMS comes into play when you're able to send somebody an initial text message, right? A lead comes in and you're sending somebody some sort of automation. Hey, just got your information. I just got your request for final expense, for health insurance, whatever it is. I just want to confirm. We'll talk a little bit about our workflows and all that, but that's why the SMS is super important, because you have a system that's actually working with you to help try to get people to engage and hopefully get them on the phone with you, and so that's the ultimate goal, I think, of SMS. And you'll talk a little bit about this, but I like the way you refer to it, that it's like, man, it's not just one thing that's going to get you all the sales. You're going to get some sales from this, doing this, a few more from this, a few more from that, and then a solid foundation in the middle that brings everything together, So explain kind of your theory, your idea, and as an agent, how much SMS really helped, and then what, we'll go into the next subjects there. Yeah.
No, I just had this call with a couple young guys, new agents, and it hit home. And in this situation, it was, we talk about agents that are existing and they may be door knocking and they're seeing the power of telesales and they're coming over. And, and when you ask yourself, why do you need to do these things? And why can't I just call? They'll pick up and I'll sell them a policy, which works, right? And but simple numbers. If I'm writing 10 policies a week, 6 to 7 of them, I just want to use a simple number. 6 to 7 of them are for me banging, calling those phones, and 2 and 3 of them are going to be from those auto booked appointments that I sent a link through text message, that I hit them with a text. Hey Bob, hey Susie, this is Eric calling you, and I sent him that text, and 5 seconds later I'm calling. Little tricks, there's tons of different strategies. I think at the end of the day, there's no silver bullet. We talk about it all the time. Everybody wants that shortcut. You see all the ads like do no work and close deals, right? Like that's right. What a beautiful fantasy land that people can paint for you. But at the end of the day, you got to put in the work. But layering all this little strategy is huge. And so what I've seen, the most important thing, of course, is once we capture this lead as cheap and as cost effective as possible, right? That's the goal. We don't want to put the fluff up front. We get them, we capture that lead, and now we make it very sticky in multiple ways, right? And most of it is all stemmed through with text messages, right? So you're choking me right now, and I'm probably losing 20-30% of my deals personally if I can't text. Because I'm texting them links to my calendar. I'm texting them, hey, this is Eric calling you about what information you requested. I'm texting them a link to a landing page. Hey, before our call, hey, you mind answering some questions? It'll help our call go a little faster. It'll help me do some research before we get on the phone, right? All these things that I'm now, these tools and these tricks, and I'm layering them, and I'm reminding them. It all stems kind of through text messaging. And so, I know you mentioned that most of the agents you talk to that you see are working on a CRM. I mean, I talk to a lot of folks that are working at companies and maybe direct, and they're captive, where they're working on Post-it notes, and it's they've got no idea. They want to follow up in 2 months. And they're like, well, I don't know. Let me look at my Rolodex of Post-its.
My Rolodex.
Yeah. And that's where. So I think there's a lot of folks missing that. And look, and talked to an agent yesterday as well, who's operating like that, right? Who doesn't have a CRM and doesn't have any of that. And so think about that. And I painted the illustration of somebody who's literally running an ad, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. They're running an ad. They're getting a lead sent to their email, right? Hey, Bob picked up. And then, depending on the time, this person is out having dinner with kids, whatever it may be. They get to it in the morning when they start their day, because it's after hours. It's, that's been sitting for 6 hours. So that person who reached out to that ad is now clicking on one of my ads, right? Because Facebook said, this person caught, we got their attention with an insurance ad. Right. We're going to hit them with another one. And they're going to get hit with my ad, and they're going to go, oh, that's good. Let me click on that. And then guess what? When they click on my ad, they're getting a text message. They're getting they're getting a picture of you, right? Because I use pictures of you to really, really capture attention.
Hey, look, ROI is everything. You know what I mean? We'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah. So that, and again, we talk about layering,
we layer my face on a couple times throughout the funnel, man. I don't stop giving away the secrets, man.
If you auto book an appointment, we'll give you the full body photo.
That's why it's called the dirty secrets of insurance.
That's right. So so that's the power of that, though. Like, if I'm competing with another agency or another agent, whatever it may be, and a lot of times that would be the difference. Man, how much more of a conversion rate am I going to get with somebody who's getting a text message right away and I'm engaging with them? Right now, I'm sending them to a calendar. I'm making it real sticky. We talk about it, right? Like, now I'm really going to hold on to that, even though I'm not available for 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. We've got automations, and those are getting better. And I know you're working on a project with AI, and you can share more about that as well, on how how that's going to be incorporated, the pros and cons. And
it's basically going to be like topless images of you and me. And we'll just AI is just gonna feed them to people, and I think that's gonna really bump up the sales.
Hey, this is Oscar and I. We're on the beach right now. Just love the chat after.
Oh man. Look, I think that I think I mentioned it on last episode. We talked. I do have handful of agents that have come to me one guy in specific that I can remember, that this guy is writing business every single month, 30,000, 40,000 in annual premium every single month off of a spreadsheet. You know, he's all of his leads go into an Excel
Wow.
form, a CSV format. When I even was like, why don't you throw them in a Google Drive and like zap them into there? And he was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, man. I don't, you know what I mean? And now we're trying to get him into more of an automated system that keeps him on the phone, right? Making actual presentations, and which are the ultimate goal, right? Is contacts, engagement equal presentations equal sales. And so what can you do as an agent to help you get more presentations, right? In contact with more people, and lessen the amount of time that you're maybe dialing or pushing into initial contact. And so listen, if you're an agent out there and you're not using some sort of CRM, automation, some sort of workflow, man, I just think you're selling yourself so short. You are like, you're pedaling out here a bicycle, and you know, and we're driving a Ferrari. You know what I mean? Like that's the comparison, right? Like you're way behind. And face to face, I almost can understand it a little bit more, because there's scheduling issues, you know, where like, all right, can you get a pre-booked appointment for somebody that needs to really route their day based on locations and stuff like that? So that becomes more of a challenge. But shy of that, if you're doing telesales and you're not using automations, like real automations, right? Not like, hey, this is me, and then an hour later, hey, this is me again, and then an hour, hey, this is me again, but actual like logic, which we'll talk about that in a second. If you're not using those things, man, you're not really, one, you're not using automation. Two, you're not really using automation, right? Like you're not using it to its potential, and you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone by not using it properly. And so, you know, automations are basic workflows, right? Are basic triggers, right? Based on something that happens. A new lead gets generated. A lead, you know, you add a tag to a lead, and that tag triggers an automation or a workflow where you're immediately hitting that person with an email, an SMS, even a phone call, a voicemail drop. There's a bunch of things you can do. But for the purpose that we use automations, is a lead comes in from whatever platform. Instantly, they're getting, up until now, what's known as if this, then that logic, right? Which is a human, you know, inputted system that has errors, right? And what that means is you're asking a series of questions that result in, you know, something simple like a yes or no answer. And then based on those yes or no answers, you're trying to ask or answer and propose another question, with the end goal, in our case, to pre-book an appointment for a person. Or like what I always say to agents, like if you're busy, like you said, and you can't get on the phone, right? You're doing a presentation or you're not working or whatever it is, then that engagement, that SMS is trying to pre-book an appointment for you by going through those questions, right? And it's simple as, hey, just got your request for more info on health insurance. To confirm, you're at zip code 12345. Is that correct? So now the system has asked the question. That person typically is going to say yes, because we just captured their zip code. And so the questions always lead to yes, right? Very seldom is there a no. And if there is, then there's some answers, and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's not, it's clunky, right? Just like all technology is at some point, but it'll lead through it. The person says yes, great. And I see that you're in Dallas, Texas. Is that correct? Fantastic. Yes. Okay. We do have some programs available in your area. I have some availability later today. Do you have 5 minutes that we can jump on a call and I can give you all the details about the programs? Something along the lines of that. And then the person says, yes, great. I have X time and this time. What time works for you? I'll take this time. Great. I have you booked for. And it goes through that entire process on its own. And then obviously, if somebody doesn't reply to that initial text, then the next day it's going to send a text. Hey, John, tried reaching out to you yesterday about the request you made, but are you still looking for, are you still at, again, asking questions that lead to a yes answer via text. And we're trying to hit them. We carry a heavy workflow like that for the first 3 or 4 days. After that, your chances of contacting that person greatly go down. Really, after the first day, that's your best chance, right? That first day, the first, second day. We run an automation for 3, I think maybe 4 days, and it starts slowing down, But really, in those first few days is when we're hitting it heavy. And the goal is, again, if you're on the phone, then it's going to try to pre-book that appointment. If you're not on the phone, right? Because we go back to what you mentioned, like not one thing is going to be the answer, right? The silver bullet. And so like, if somebody answers the text and you're sitting there watching this happen, right? You watch the system send out the automated text and you see the person answer yes, you don't let the system continue, right? Like it's not, it's not like an alien. It can't like sell for you, right? So that's engagement for you to stop that automation and call that person. Hey, John, I know we were just texting. I had a few minutes in between calls and just figured I'd call you. I see that you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that correct? And I'm in a pitch right now. I'm in a presentation with this person. So the automation is not going to sell you deals. And there are times when it'll ask the question, hey, are you at zip code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And the person says, yes, but my kid just fell off the roof and broke his arm. I'm running to the hospital. And then the system goes, great. And I see that you're in Dallas, Texas. Is that correct? You know what I mean? And so like, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I often will get agents that come to me and say, hey, man, this automation, it messes up sometimes. It's this, I think it's too aggressive. And what they fail to realize is that when you're working volume, right? When you're working the numbers, which is all this is ever about when we talk about this business, yeah, you're going to have a few people that it didn't answer correctly or that thought it was a little aggressive and say stop. But the other side of that coin is you're going to get a lot more people that are actually going to respond yes to the text message and then yes again and then yes again and then book a call, or you're going to call them and they're going to pick up a call and it turns into a sale. So you have to take a step back as an agent, especially when you're first starting out and you just have 5 leads coming in or 10 leads coming in a week. And of the 5 leads, one of them got pissed off from the text message. Again, data. You got to be able to not step into something that works at scale, because for every 100 leads that come in and it hits it with that automation, you're going to close, 5, 6, 8% of them. And a big chunk of them is going to come from these automations. So the few that get pissed off or that don't respond, those people were never deals, right? Somebody who says stop after you texting them twice, it's probably not going to be a deal, right? So you're caught up on the idea that, oh man, the automation's not working. It's ruining my deal. It's not ruining anything. It's helping you 10 times more than it's hurting you. And if you don't see that, you'll stop the automations, right? I'll have that. Clients will come to me and say, I want to stop the automation. Cool. And then they go to 0 pre-booked appointments, 0 engagement, and you're back in 1993 dialing from a handset on on one of these. You know what I mean? So automations are everything, man. And as we go further into this business, forget about it. Now we talk about like, Chat GPT, which is now what we have rolling out. And you're seeing it everywhere, right? How to use Chat GPT, how to do the commands, how to do this, how can I, replace this, replace that. And it has some very useful tools. And it also has some things that are very clunky, right? Just like the automation that currently exists. And with time, those things will get better. But right now with Chat GPT, we'll get rid of in the next 30 days, 60 days, we'll completely get rid of that if this, then that logic.
Yeah.
and that conversation will happen naturally via OpenAI. This, you basically teach the system on how to conversate, the tone at which you want it to conversate. You want it to be emotional, you want it to be sympathetic, you want it to be aggressive, whatever tone you want to take with that potential prospect. The AI basically knows that based off of data and then starts conversating. So that's coming, and that's going to change, and it'll render if this, then that workflows useless. You won't need them anymore. And if you're using them in 6 months, you're basically the guy that isn't using anything right now. You know what I mean? Like, that's how fast technology moves. And if people aren't shifting with it and being open to it, then they're just going to fall back. And the rest of us are going to continue to take more market share. That's how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to look at it. And you brought up a really good point too, because I just remembered when I started, and you're zoomed in, right? Like, you're over analytical about every single thing that's happening. And yeah, you bring in 100 leads and one of them goes, stop. And you're like, what? Like,
yeah.
You've got 99 good leads, but one of them said stop. And you're like, you stop making phone calls. You looking at your script. You're like, man, if I would have said this differently, this guy would have maybe not said stop.
Right.
Maybe I should have waited an extra 30 seconds before I had that automation hit him. And I think it's so important for, like what you said, to to look at the data, zoom out, and really understand, okay, look, this guy was probably never a deal.
Right.
This is going to happen when you send out 1,000 texts to 1,000 different people, in a month. This is just part of the business and part of what you're going to have to go through. And that is such a huge statement, because I was that person where I was just, I was overanalyzing everything. And at the end of the day, this is really one step of the process, right? This isn't the silver bullet. There is no silver bullet. Right. Chat GPT is gonna be fantastic, and it's going to help carry a little conversations a little bit better and probably avoid a little bit of mistakes. But again, when you go back and look at the piece of the puzzle that your text and your messaging is, it's still a small percentage of your whole book of business that you're creating, right? In just the whole puzzle, of what comes together to go from, hey, I'm Eric, I've got a desk and a computer, to me being on the phone with somebody and selling a policy, right? This is just a small piece of the puzzle. Very important. Like I mentioned, this is part of what's going to give me that extra 20, 30, maybe even 40% of my business at the end of the week. When I go back and look, like, okay, wow, look, this person had engaged with me on text and whether or not. And I think one thing as well to bring up, even if they're not engaging with me on text, or maybe they did once and they stopped, maybe my automation was a little heavy for them, whatever it may be. I think my hope as well is that maybe I've created some sense of guilt for them. So now when they see me calling, right, and they're like, oh yeah, this guy's been hitting me up, man. He sent me an email. He sent me a picture of Oscar. He sent me, he's done a lot of work here to try to get my business. And even though I didn't respond, man, I'm gonna pick up this call now and I'm gonna have this conversation, right? Opposed to, I don't know who this number is. Yeah, okay, last night I did click on an ad. I totally even forgot about that, because now I'm running kids to school. I'm packing lunches, and then who's this guy calling me, kind of thing. So yeah, there's almost an element of that I'm hoping as an agent, by doing all this work, that this person's now going to pick up.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's. I hadn't thought of it like that, but I think that happens.
Right.
Just like anything, right? Like, when you get bombarded by the same brand or the same face, and it's something that somewhat interests you, right? Or you have a need for, you more often than not, you end up succumbing to it, right? And clicking on it and seeing what it is, or watching the video or taking the call. And so that's a really great point on what else it can do and help. I think that is, we talk about what percentage of the pie is it? How many sales will it generate? You got to know the dirty secrets, right? The reality of automations and pre-booked appointments, right? The truth is, again, it's just going to help a little bit. It's going to move the needle just enough for you. And if you're not getting people saying stop, then you're not getting enough people, right? Then you're not reaching enough people, because if you're not getting no's, then you're just not working hard enough, right? You got to be pushing. The same thing in sales, right? Like, if you're not getting people saying no to you on a pitch, then you're just not selling enough.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nobody out there that doesn't get no's. I don't care how good you are. Yeah. We're all getting no's in some shape or fashion, right? And so, but on the other side of it, it's the assistance that it gives you, right? Because now we can break down like real numbers. And I just did this with good friend David Duford. Big shout out to the Duford group out there. We manage and handle all of the Alpha Leads programs that they have. We're helping them. We've now been in this program for, almost 5 months. And we're helping the agents generate their own leads at cost while getting the heavy training that Duford and all those guys are providing. And so big shout out to them. But I just had a conversation via email going back and forth with them about, what is the percentage that this is yielding, right? How many pre-book appointments are coming in? And from that, what actually turns into money? And the number, like, when I first started in this business in final expense and I was on the phone myself, I was just cranking the ads, and I was getting, I think I had a month where I had almost 300 appointments, in 1 month. And I remember I had a $40,000 month. And it was just like, wow, I just cracked this. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, man, okay, I figured something out here that I hadn't figured out before. And so now fast forward a year and a half later, and, we have agents and helping other agencies and doing things like the Alpha Leads program. And so if you're out there looking to join a good team with a lot of training, a lot of support, go check those guys out, the Duford Insurance Group. Big shout out to David Duford. But again, we just looked over these numbers, and it was unbelievable, right? Out of all the agents that are in the program, and there's dozens of them, there's a pre-book rate of about 27, 28%. Some people are at 30. Between 25 and 30% is what you typically see on pre-booked appointments. And I think that's across the board. The interesting part was to see that, and we're always like, I'm always so upfront with people about this, right? Like, pre-books are great, but most of those people are not going to show up to those appointments, right? Like, the show rates on them are 20%, 30%. And so the only thing that we can do is generate more of them, right? To try to back out, and just the same thing as the leads. And so if we're getting 30%, and these guys, of the ones that actually, excuse me, of the ones that actually show up, they're closing like 30, 40% of them, right? And most of their sales, a good portion of the weekly sales for these agents, are coming from these pre-booked appointments or text messages that are being answered, right? These automations, people answering the automation, and then picking up the phone when the agent calls. And so, and we've seen it now where some of these agents will go, no, I don't want the automation. I want to try something different. And of course, we're going to, hey, look, you're the client, right? So if that's what you want, let's run it. And then they'll come back and go, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I take it all back. Let me just work the system that you guys have in place that actually like works. Right. And so, again, it's about the expectations of things. Right? Because there's also people and companies out there that are selling pre-booked appointments as this like end all be all. Right? And if you're out there buying, like paying for a pre-booked appointment, man, what a terrible system that is. Right? Like that's again, we go back, that's one little piece of the entire pie. Right? And if that's all you're focused on, then that's not going to be so great. You're going to leave a lot of meat on the bone. Right? And so it's a huge part, but it's not everything. And you have to know the expectations and understanding that, okay, most of these people are not going to pick up, right? Or show up to the appointment, no matter if they just booked it a minute ago, no matter that I sent them a confirmation text and they actually answered, right? And it happens, right? Like we send out a notification or reminder 15 minutes before the call. Hey, Eric, excited to talk to you in 15 minutes. And they'll go, yeah, me too. And then in 15 minutes, you call them and they don't pick up.
Yeah.
You know, and you call them 3 times. And then you text them, you go, hey, I'm calling you on our set appointment. You said you were ready. And they ghost you.
Yeah.
Right. And so are you taking that shit personal? You know, are you going, why did they this? Why aren't they that? Is there something wrong? There's nothing wrong. These people have no idea who you are, where you come from. And so if they don't know who you are, what the hell are you doing expecting most of those people to show up? They're just not. But if you have the right expectation of it and one does show up, man, you're going into that sale harder than ever with confidence, with motivation, because the idea is not, oh man, all these people don't show up. The idea is, oh man, look at this person. They showed up. This has to be a deal. You know? And I say that to agents, like if somebody watches a video or whatever ad and then clicks on it and then answers 6 questions, 7 questions, and then they go into a calendar and they book a time and a date, and then you ask them to answer 10 more questions after all.
We may have lost Oscar here.
Man, I did see this is happening right now. Sorry about that. So I'm getting calls to my phone. I got a D&D when we do these episodes. I got to tell the editing team and all these guys to figure this out, you know, but
or get a burner phone. Yeah.
Man, I need something's got to give, man. They're trying. It's Biden. Biden just called me 3 times in the last second. They literally triple dialed me, man. I almost picked up too. I almost picked up and gave him my info and got ACA insurance. So where were we? Yeah, look, you got to have the right expectations of these things. Oh, this is what I was saying. If they've gone through all these things, answering the questions, watching the video, picking a time and date to talk to you, then answering 10 more questions, and now they're on a call with you, man. I mean, I don't know how people see that, but anything but good. Forget about the people that aren't showing up. Here are people that did show up after taking all these steps. So it's so important, man. Pre-books, automations, AI, all of it. You got to have it in 2023. You got to have it or you're a dinosaur.
Well, yeah. I mean, or you're fighting against other people that have it. I think that's one of the biggest arguments too. It's not even, necessarily on its own how effective it is to a client, but how effective it is working against competition, right? Other agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The competing aspect of it.
Yeah. So first to the punch, and man, I'd love nothing more to hit a prospect with my automation, and then they get hit on another later on. They get hit with somebody else's, and they're hitting stop on their automation.
Right.
So, no. I've got Eric's already hit me up, and he's loading me up with so much. I don't.
I got the topless shirt pick. I mean, I'm ready. I can't go anywhere else. This is
where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I think that covers a good basis. If guys are out there trying to figure out, well, and this is I don't think we talked about this. Let's touch on this, because now who do you use to get these things, right? I'm a new agent. and I need to figure out what CRM or who am I using or whatever. And again, the some of the secrets in this industry is a lot of the CRMs that you guys see out there right now are all actually identical. They're exactly the same, and they're all built off of one model. The most common one that I see in the insurance business is Go High Level, right? Go High Level is an agency CRM, almost like a out of the box platform, right?
Yeah.
That lets you, whoever, right? An agent, a solar salesperson, someone who does roofing, anybody can go and manage your contacts and do the funnels and automations and all that. More importantly, Go High Level provides a white label solution where a company can come in and create their own CRM specific to an industry, right? So they pay Go High Level a higher amount every month, and then that gives them the ability to rename that CRM and call it My Insurance Aid CRM or the Policy Dude CRM. And you can now resell it to people in the insurance business, the solar business, the roofing business, general contracting. Go High Level is being used in a bunch of different things, coaching, services, all kinds of stuff. There's pros and there's cons, I think, in using a white label solution of Go High Level. I think that if you're brand new to insurance, if you're brand new to the concept of a CRM, automations, funnels, sites, calendars, all these things, then you're probably a better candidate to use one of these white label platforms, right? Because what they do is they take everything that Go High Level offers and they customize it to an industry. Insurance, final expense, Medicare, ACA. And so that's where you get a ton of value in using some of these white label CRMs along with support. Some of these companies do provide some really strong support and they are there to help the agents kind of every step of the way. And they provide a series of templates and things that they can use to operate the insurance business. So that's the biggest value on it. The downside to it is what you're paying for that and what you're missing out on if you're at a little bit of a higher level or a little bit more advanced in the ideas of CRMs, contact management, funnels, things like that. Because what the white label platforms are doing is they're basically monetizing all of the things that Go High Level provides to all its users, right? For X amount of dollars. These white label platforms are taking all these little things, right? A chat bot, a pre-booking, a workflow, a funnel, and they're saying, hey, we're including this for free, or hey, for $20 more a month, here's a chat bot that's going to help you do this. And they're monetizing all these little add-ons and tools that basically Go High Level provides free. So the difference there is Go High Level doesn't come already built out for the insurance business, right? You can get a Go High Level account and you're going to have access to 5,000 templates of all industries, chiropractors, doctors, lawyers, solar, all these industries that use Go High Level. You're going to have access to all of that. You can build funnels, websites, calendars, connect domains. You can do all of it, but you're going to have to build it out on your own. So as a more advanced person in the business, and as I think you grow, you are certainly in a much better position if you can control your own CRM. For me, that's like controlling marketing, I want to control everything that I have in my business. I don't want to rely on a third party of a third party. You know what I mean? Not forever. I want to get to a point where I can do this on my own, build this out on my own. And for agencies, super powerful, right? Because if you're running a team of people and you can have everybody under one CRM, you can do really cool things with lead distribution, with calendars. You can just really incorporate and really create some efficiencies in your business and how you run a lead and process and all that stuff. And so, you know, I work with white label platforms, right? A big one that I do a lot of business with is Lead to Client. Big shout out to those guys. They provide a great support system. And again, if you're a newer agent and trying to figure things out and want a CRM, that's a great option. They provide great support. They have a good system. But when you're ready to really, do things a little bit more custom, get out, branch out more, certainly going to a direct system that you own is much better. Outside of that, there's a bunch of CRMs, right? Monday CRM, there's Ringy, which is more of a dialer versus a CRM. There's Phone Burner, which is again more of a dialing system than a CRM. Vanilla Soft, Salesforce. You can completely get, again, don't focus so much on these details. Pick one and go. Because once you make money, you can go back and change it. But if you spend too much time trying to find one CRM, you're just wasting time. Another big thing is your costs, right? Because when you dial or when you send an SMS, that's costing you. You're paying for that. If you're with Go High Level Direct, you're paying the base cost, right? You're just getting it stepped on once, right? Go High Level's making a little piece and then you move on. If you're using a white label platform, Go High Level's making a little piece. Well, Twilio, who issues the DIDs or the phone numbers, then Go High Level makes a little piece, and then that white label platform is making a little piece on your SMS texting and the calling that you do, right? The calling rates. So keep an eye on that, because you'll go into these CRMs and you'll pay $100 a month and you think that's it. And then at the end of the month, first month or two, you start getting bills for $100, $200 more. And those are your communication costs. So keep an eye on it. If you're going to join a white label CRM, get that data up front. What is it costing me to send an SMS message to somebody? What is it costing me to do a phone call per minute rate? And then go compare it with other companies, with other, variations of Go High Level or Go High Level directly. Sometimes you can save hundreds of dollars a month, And again, if we go back to, we're sending out a text message to every lead that comes in 3 times the first day, 3 times the second day, 3 times the third day, and you do that 100 leads a week, you're sending thousands of text messages on a monthly basis. And that's how you end up, you're paying a fraction of a penny, but man, that adds up to a lot of money, and that adds up to a lot of profit to the companies that are, overbilling on those charges. So those would be my kind of 2 cents on that.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely can be, I think, pretty daunting for folks. And I think you also see why people go to Post-its, right? Because they're like, man, I don't know. Like, I got to sign up for this, and then I've got to figure out all the, how to even set this up. And then it's like, okay, where am I going to get my ads from? On my leads? Where am I going to put my leads into the CRM? And so, I mean, that's what I was thankful for you. Like when I got in, like able to kind of just set that all up for me, and I was off to the races. I didn't have to think about what was the right step to go. And I think that's just the power of, getting into the industry and being like, okay, these are the conversations that you need to have. And nobody was having these conversations with me, of the whole workflow. How are you going to get a lead? How are you going to manage the lead? How are you going to close the lead? It was just, if you just go buy leads and call them, you'll close business. That's it. Sign up now. Get your license. You're good to go.
You're good. You're good. Come on over. You have a credit card? You have savings?
Yeah.
Cool. Come on over. Let's drop them in here.
Exactly. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Just buy these leads and then we'll go. So that's, I think that's super helpful. That's really, really good info. And especially because, the A2P, everything getting registered is huge right now. And that's, I think everybody, they're experiencing it the hard way, if not already. And if you're not, or if you're getting into the industry and you're getting your phone number, just because you got a CRM, just because you got a phone number, doesn't mean it's not registered. And that's one thing you need to make sure you're going out and doing.
Go do it, man. Don't wait anymore. Go register that thing. Get a CRM if you don't have one. Automate, automate, automate. You're not going to do it all day one. It's going to take some time, but work your way through it. Number one, just stay on the phones, get activity, get in front of people, and then everything else is secondary. But do those things and don't fall behind. If you need any help, reach out to us. You know, we're not trying to recruit, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're trying to honestly give good information. And if you're out there, go join our group, our Facebook group. We're on there, YouTube channel. Follow us. Guys, if this video was good and brought some solid information, give us a like, hit the subscribe button. We're doing this every single week, coming out with an episode. And that's it, man. I appreciate everybody out there. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, sounds good. And we're apparently hiring a new sound engineer because we fired him during the show. So
hey, if you're out there and you have to have at least you worked in touring with Grammy nominated artists. We were not accepting anybody who hasn't worked major productions. Send credentials, sends resumes, info@thepolicydude.com. All right.
No scrubs.
We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.